Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another awesome episode of the Man Behind Ministry podcast. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Smith of the Virgin Street Church right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. A very, very good friend of mine. I had the pleasure to know him for a couple years. He was serving a sister congregation right here in Tulsa, and our friendship really hit it off. And so it's been a pleasure getting to know him so well that, hey, he's not even in Tulsa anymore. But hey, I said, I got to get you on the show. So we've done some collaborative work in the past, and so with some of the initiatives that he had, and so it's only right that we bring him to the show. Pastor of the Sothside Church of Christ, right there in the heart of Montgomery, Alabama. Very, very good friend of mine, Minister Pastor Reverend Bishop Archbishop Jonathan Gibbons. Let's go ahead and get into it, y'all. God, how you doing? How you doing, man?
Doc, I'm doing well, man. I'm still stuck on the introduction, Minister Bishop Doc Reverend.
All the above, baby.
Just pass the giving, man. But I'm doing good. How are you, man?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Hey, man, just a blessing to be alive, man. This has been a work in progress, but just glad to have you a part of this thing.
I'm just glad to be here, Doc. I'm glad that you send this opportunity to me, though. So I'm excited.
Yes, sir. It's an honor. You ready to get into this thing, man?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
As I referenced in the intro, man, you pastor the Sothside congregation right there in Montgomery. We know that is dirty South, right there in the heart, civil rights movement. So many monumental and historic things have happened, not only just in the African American community, but also just in the Black church, man. So kind of tell us how does that feel stepping into a congregation with that much history, stepping into a city with that much history?
I'll be honest with you, man. It was scary.
Mm-hmm.
One of the scariest things I've ever done. Pastoring is not easy.
Yeah.
As you know, pastoring is really a 24/7 kind of job. But to now have to shift from, of course, being an associate pastor in Tulsa to come to a church that's rich with history in what we affectionately call it the gum was definitely frightening because I'm at a church that was founded by the Dr. K.K. Mitchell, who planted this church 51 years ago in the parking lot of George Carver Washington High School. And to be able to take his vision and to move it forward got there in 2021, now getting ready to walk to 2023. It's definitely been a humbling experience because this city is rich.
Right.
I pastor in a city where Rosa Parks literally decided that she was not going to get out of her seat on a bus for people like you and I so that we could be able to have a right to ride public transportation without feeling like we are less than. Pastoring in a city where just about maybe 7 minutes away from Sothside is Dexter Avenue, where Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King pastored and really gave life to the civil rights movement, where he fought for the rights of African American men and women, so that we could be able to have an opportunity to have a voice in a world that told us that we would never be able to amount to anything. So to now be in a city like that that's rich with history and to pastor a church, it's definitely been frightening, it's been humbling, but I do know, and I can say this without a shadow of a doubt, that it has been a God ordained assignment. The South is very different from the North. I grew up
Detroit, man.
I grew up in Detroit. I grew up in Michigan in the North, and there is a big difference, especially in the Black church. And so when I came down here, they really looked at me and are still looking at me as pastor.
Yeah.
And what do I mean? They wanted me to be someone who actually was a pastor, who operated in the role of being someone who could feed them, who could care for them, who could protect them.
Yeah.
Because that's what they're accustomed to, that's what they're used to. They wanted someone that they could follow. And one of my good friends, Antoine Jackson, he wrote a book entitled The Creative Leader.
Okay.
And one of the things that he talked about with leadership is that, leadership is leading yourself in a way where people want to follow. And so thinking about that and then putting myself into this context, every single day, it was me making sure that I was leading myself in a way where the people here at Sothside Montgomery would be comfortable enough to follow my voice and to be comfortable enough to see a sense of buy-in to the vision.
Yeah.
Because that's what they were accustomed to. Not only that, but just thinking about how I would preach, how I would present my lessons. We're not too far removed from slavery. Yeah. We're not too far removed from Jim Crow. I literally am in a city where you have sites where African Americans were lynched. So I had to shift my style of preaching in a way where I was theological, but I was very practical in a sense of preaching hope to people who have operated with, I'd say, operated in the spirit of George Floyd with the knee on their neck.
Yeah.
And so, knowing that, I had to make sure that I was ministering to the trichotomous being of my members, the mind, the body, and the soul. And I'll say now that being able to now be here, I've been at Sothside for a year, and now a year and 2 months. It's definitely been a blessing.
Yeah.
Because I'll be real with you. You know, I didn't really know what I was getting ready to walk into.
Right.
You know, I was a history major in college, so I knew all about the history of this city, and you know the things that have happened in this city,
right.
How people really view the South.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm literally in the heart of the Confederacy. You know, so I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know how people were going to receive me. I don't even think I have a Southern accent yet. I think I still talk like a dude from Detroit. But I knew that God was sending me here for a reason, and each and every day God will wake me up with new mercy and more grace.
Nice.
To be able to hold the mantle here at Southside.
Right.
So, you know, it wasn't easy. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say it was easy, because a lot of people, you know, I remember people would tell me, oh, you're going to have a honeymoon season. You're going to have a honeymoon season. You know, you're in your honeymoon season.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't really have a honeymoon season.
Okay.
And I really, when I came into let's do it like this. I came into a church that had 2 pandemics.
How so?
A pandemic of COVID-19, right? And a pandemic of leadership calamity. I put it like that.
Yeah.
And so when I came in as that young dude from Tulsa, Oklahoma, by way of Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah.
Who they said that they brought this young preacher in, this young pastor in to push the church forward. And so I came into really a church that was hurting, a church that was trying to figure out their identity, figure out what they stand for. Can we recover from the twin pandemic?
Yeah.
And so when I got in here, it was literally, I had to get to work.
Boots on the floor. Yeah.
I mean, really, I had to get to work. I had to push vision. I had to change mentalities, and I really had to shift Southside into a organization and an organism that God would be pleased with.
Okay.
I walked into a church that had vision but lost its vision. And so I had to reestablish the vision where everyone understood this is where we're going, this is why we do what we do, and this is how we're going to accomplish what we need to do to go beyond and above where we've been. So,
okay. Yeah. I mean, I know it's ministry. We can go on and on about that. I do want to dive more into your human side. As you mentioned, before we got on, man, a lot of firsts you got going on. So one, it's your first new year leading the congregation. Man, you about to get married in a couple weeks, man. Kind of share with us that experience of that, and just how do you envision being married and your new beautiful bride just impacting ministry and you personally?
Marriage is God ordained. We know that marriage is a covenant between 3 people, really, between the husband, the wife, and God.
Right.
And I'll be real with you, Ryan. didn't know I'd be getting married this early. I didn't go sit here and lie to you. I did not know.
It'll catch you off guard, brother.
Oh, it showed up real. But the blessing is, though, and kind of switching back to in the context of the church, is that I was never pressured to get married. And I think that's one of the things that blessed me about Sothside, even in the interview process. It never came up, actually, until I mentioned it towards the end of the process.
That's good.
I'm dating someone, and we've been together for 4 years. We've been rocking and rolling, and I think. Well, let me give it to you like this. Mikeana is my fiance. We're getting married, and I love her because she makes me whole. Yeah. When my grandmother passed away, my grandmother raised me. She passed away in 2014, and she was kind of the glue that held me together. Yeah. So when she passed away, it was kind of like I always had that missing piece. And of course, you never operate where you need somebody to fill that void. You never want to do that. You want to find peace and fullness in other ways, especially with your relationship with Christ. Surely. But Mikeana just kind of filled that void, that hole, where she understood me as Jonathan, the individual. Yeah. Because when we first started dating, I met her here in Alabama. Really? I met her at a homecoming down in Rogersville, and we started dating, and we went to vocal camp down in Rogersville. So but when she met Jonathan, the educator, Jonathan, the song leader. Okay. First time we interacted was I was leading songs for homecoming. Okay. And I never ever told her I wanted to. Hadn't started even preaching yet. Wow. So, she knew me as Jonathan the individual, Jonathan the educator, Jonathan the college student, and so I think that helped us because there was no pressure of, babe, I'm getting ready to go into ministry, and this is what you need to do. No, actually, it took me by surprise and her by surprise when I took my first position as a youth minister in Detroit. And then when I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma as an associate, it was kind of a big surprise to her and a big surprise to me because I never really thought about the concept of First Lady. That was never in my mind. It was just, okay, my lady, Mikeana. So it's been a blessing to have a partner like her who understands me, who understands what makes me tick, what gets me angry. She understands what I like, what I don't like. She kind of flows with me without any real animosity or any real confusion. Yeah. Like I just cut it straight with her. Yeah. And she cuts it straight with me. And of course, nobody's perfect. No relationship is perfect. We have our moments. But we're able to connect with each other because, we like the same things. Socially, we do the same things. And so I wanted someone, let me just be honest with you. I didn't want a church girl. I hear you. Yeah. And Mikeana is not a church girl. Yeah, she is. Her father, of course, is a deacon in the church, but she's not a church girl. And I wasn't looking for a church girl.
Most of us don't. We need somebody. We need a kind
that's a whole other podcast for the time. But I wasn't looking for a church girl. I wasn't looking for no church girl. And so just to connect with her outside of the church, where it's not, we about to have Bible study every time we get together. It wasn't like that. And that's been a blessing. The other thing I mentioned about I mentioned two more things. The other thing is this. I have made it clear to her because one of the things is I'm getting ready to get into this covenant relationship. And of course, it's going to change the dynamics of how I do ministry, what we do at Southside, and now adding on an addition to my family and to the church. I think the impact that it's going to show is that she is not going to be your ordinary first lady.
That's good. Yeah.
I think that's what's going to make a big difference and impact for Sothside and its context. Because one of the things I told Makiana is this. I said, first of all, now, you know, we make our own term first lady. That ain't biblical. But, correct. You know, in the black church, you know how we do things.
Yes.
But the one thing I told her is this. I said that I'll never hold her to any standard that's not biblical.
Good.
So in retrospect, for her, I want her to be my first lady, not the church's first lady.
I like that. That's good.
And I think that made her comfortable because, you know, I'm not going to force her to do anything she's not comfortable with doing. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of times when ministers get into these positions and they go and search for churches, they get married quick for the wrong reasons. Now, that's just my opinion. Not all of them, but many of them get married for the wrong reasons. Right. And then what they do is they take their spouse and they try to put them into a role that their spouse may not, first of all, be gifted for. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing. And may not be comfortable with. And when you're not gifted and comfortable with something, you can create chaos where there's supposed to be harmony and peace. Right. And so that's the thing I told her. I said, listen, when you serve at Southside, you know, you serve based upon the gift that God has gave you. And you be comfortable enough to say yes to what you want to do and no to what you don't want to do. Yeah. I don't expect you to be leading the women's ministry. Now, one day, if you feel comfortable enough or you want to lead the women's ministry, that's fine. Yeah. I understand that. But Makiana is an educator. She's a teacher. She loves kids. Okay. So, you know, I can see Makiana, you know, teaching Sunday school, teaching a class, running vacation Bible school. Yeah. You know, she's gifted in those different areas. You know, Makiana is very organized. She's more organized than me. No, I'm not going to make her the church secretary because everybody going to make their wife the church secretary. I'm not making her the secretary. Yeah. But she's very organized. So, you know, there may be something that she can do in that area. So I think that's the big thing that is going to make an impact at Southside, where they see, hey, I'm not forcing her to fill a role that you, and I'm not just saying Southside, but that the Black church has created just to say, okay, this is what a first lady should look like. This is what a first lady should be doing. How do you know what a first lady should be doing? Right. And so I think that, I really do think that Makiana, she really makes my ministry shine. She makes me look good. I just be honest with you. She does. Hey, you know, I was looking at some of the pictures we took during
homecoming. Get those points, man. Get them.
We look real churchy, you know. So, but she makes me look good. She has a great spirit, and that's what I want in a spouse. Mm-hmm. I don't want any. I had to catch myself. That's what I want in a spouse. I want somebody who can be real with me. Mm-hmm. You know, we're gonna have Bible study. We're gonna, you know, we're gonna do all of that. I'm gonna pour into her, let her pour into me. But we're still human beings. Yeah. And I want to be able to live and to enjoy my spouse, and not neglect her just because I'm pastoring a church. Okay. I don't want that. I don't want her to feel like she's left by the wayside just because I have to, you know, to minister to people. You know, one of the things, and I'll close here. One of the things that blessed me about her is that it was during my anniversary weekend, and one of my closest members passed away. One of the sweetest ladies in the world. One of my biggest supporters. She would literally, after every Bible class, send me an email encouraging me, talking about some points, and just saying, hey, Pastor, literally she'd say, hey, Pastor, you keep teaching, you did an amazing job. So to get the call from her family, she was literally deceased in her house. I went to the house and saw her. You know, she had literally passed. She passed the day before, and they didn't discover her body until the next day. And I know that's kind of gruesome, and I do apologize to everybody who's listening. But I say that to say that we were in the car, And Mikeana grabbed my hand and she said, "You got this." And I had her stay in the car because I didn't want her, to go in to see what was going on. We had some of our leaders were out there. It was an emotional scene. And she grabbed my hand and said, "You got this." And we had just sat down to go eat some tacos, and I got the phone call, and so we had to hurry up and eat. And during my anniversary weekend, we had to hurry up and eat and then head over to the house. So that was a moment that I said, okay, that she's my ride or die. She's with me, and I appreciate her for that. So
that's beautiful, man. Beautiful. Love it. You talked about just your relationship and just her appreciating you for who you are, just Jonathan, right? And so let's kind of dive more into that human side. So ministry, that's, like I said, that's our calling. That's what we're into. That's what we're passionate about, and we should be. So when you're not preaching, when you're not looking at the sacred text, when you're not handling meetings and other things regarding ministry, what's your hobbies, man? Like, what are you doing? What keeps you going? What are you doing that's not related to ministry? I know that's sometimes hard for us because our life is consumed by it, but you got to have some downtime. So what is Jonathan doing in his spare time?
Well, I'll be honest with you, and I really need to do better. I need to do better with putting boundaries up for my peace, because oftentimes the time that I'm supposed to be relaxing, the time that I'm supposed to be taking a break, I'm often thinking about ministry, thinking about what I can do better, critiquing myself, critiquing everything. Even before we got on this call, before I was about to go to sleep, I was watching service to see what I could do better, to see what the media team could do better. But for me, this is what kind of gets me together. I am a I mean, I say avid reader, but I love reading.
Okay, what you reading?
And I read a lot of practical theological books. I really do. One of the books that really blessed my life, especially after 2020, was T.D. Jakes' Don't Drop the Mic. Okay. And it was a really good book. Really finding your voice when you want to give up is kind of the crux of that book. He actually did if I'm not mistaken, he did a panel with Stephen Furtick on the book, which was when I saw that. That's when I said, I got to get the book. Yeah. And it sits on my nightstand. Have not finished it, but I go through it from time to time to just pull some principles out to keep going. But I love reading, and when I was in Tulsa, I went to this place called Hodges Bend, and I loved it. Oh, yeah. Are they still open?
Yes, they are.
Praise God. I wish we had a Hodges Bend down here.
Yeah.
But I love going to coffee shops.
Okay.
And just reading. Excuse me. I love going to coffee shops and reading and just taking a moment to just relax my mind.
Nice.
Just listening to different theologians, different writers deal with certain concepts and making them practical. Okay. That's one of the things that I love doing. The other thing that I love is I love comedy shows. Give me 1 second. I apologize.
Yeah, you good. Like the hoodie, by the way, man. That's dope.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Come on now. Kingdom-ish. It's actually designed by a pastor in Detroit who I ordered it. He does a brand, I think it's called Detroit Made.
Okay, cool.
But I love comedy shows.
Yeah.
That is something that I have not been able to go to a comedy show since I've been here. Somebody said, Pastor, you go to comedy shows? I sure do.
Right.
Because I just love to laugh. I really do.
Yes,
Laughter is good for the soul. And that's one of the other things about Mikeana. We're both very goofy. And so I love joking. Yeah, I love joking. And so comedy shows are really my thing. And actually in 2023, I've already bought a couple of tickets for some shows that are going to be in Atlanta. Nice. And so I'm going. And me and Mikeana are going. And we're just going to relax and have a good time. And then the other thing I love doing is I love watching football, college football specifically. course, I'm the chaplain at Alabama
That was my
State
next
University.
question. That was my next
And so,
question. You go ahead. We can go and dive into that too, bro.
oh my goodness, I'm the chaplain at Alabama State University, and so
Nice.
I am swag, and
I am
I
swag.
just
Come on. Petty, dog.
and
You so
I am swag, and so I love watching college football, especially getting into HBCU football. Of course, my favorite college team is Michigan, University of
Mm-hmm.
Michigan.
Yeah.
But now that I've been down with Alabama State, it's just kind of like, hey,
Yeah.
I got to roll with the family.
Yes,
We got to
sir.
swim as one.
Yes, sir.
And so, but I love doing that. I love football. I love sports. When I was in Michigan, I worked as an associate athletic director. And so I coached middle school football as well. And so
Okay,
sports is
nice.
kind of like my go-to.
Yeah.
Me and one of my good friends, this is how I know sports was just relaxing because me and one of my good friends who coached in Michigan, we would always go to high school and college basketball games too.
Okay.
And so we would just go and we get invitations, of course. We of course in that coaching circuit,
Yeah.
they invite you out, and it was just relaxing to me
Nice.
to just go to a game and just watch the game. Eat some popcorn, eat some M&Ms, and just chill. That's what I like to do. That's kind of what gets me together. And last but not least, I love massages.
There you go.
Oh, praise the mighty name of Jesus. I have not had a massage in a while, but I love massages. I just think massages are the
It's
second.
beneficial. It's beneficial.
It's definitely beneficial.
Yeah.
And I hadn't because I was really against massages at first because I'm like,
Yeah.
nobody touching me.
You'd be surprised at how tense you are. Though.
All
You'd be
this
surprised.
goodness, this oil. You can handle this oil. So, but Mike Yana, there's this place. It's a place in Dallas, but there's also one in Tulsa. It's like Hand and Stone. I think that's what it's called, Hand and Stone. And I went there for the first time, and it was like I just felt like a brand new baby. And so those are some of the things I like to do that kind of relax me and get me energized for what I need to do during the week.
I like that, man. I like that. Something else when I was thinking about you, man, that you did mention. Someone told me, man, you're a foodie and you really enjoy in your spare time Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah, you got me, Doc. So, I am a foodie. And I'm a foodie because of Ryan. Let's start there. I want the record to show I'm a foodie because of Ryan. Ryan loves to eat. I love to eat.
Yes, sir.
And I keep referring back to Tulsa, and I have to only because Tulsa has so many restaurants, so many different spots to eat. Oh my goodness!
Local too. Local spots.
I'm a brunch guy.
Yeah.
And so there's this spot that Ryan used to take me to right in the Midtown area. And Ryan knows everybody. So, come in, hey, Ryan, hey, Ryan, hey, Ryan. All right now, come on, Pastor.
Stop it.
And so Ryan has got me hooked on brunch. So I brunch all the time now, even here in Montgomery. Going to brunch on tomorrow. So,
nice.
So I love brunch, but he mentioned Girl Scout cookies, and the devil is in the Girl Scout organization because every year I try to avoid Girl Scout cookies, and Ryan would just. I don't know if he was doing. I don't know who he was working for. She was working in another upside down kingdom. I don't know, but Ryan would send me a picture of these Girl Scout Santa. He said, "I got your box."
You lucky we out of season. I was gonna have one for the show. I was gonna have
it. I got your box. Like, wait a minute, like I'm reading up from a supplier or something. Like, wait a minute.
Right.
So. And I blame Ryan for all of my foodie habits.
Hey man, you're welcome. You are more than welcome, man. Love it, man. Love it. Before we get out this thing, man, I always think about just the purpose of this medium, man. It's I mean, it's multifaceted. One, to strengthen our relationship as pastors, as ministers, because we know ministry can be a lonely place. With that being said, normally when you talk about the humanity, we referenced that a little bit. The humanity of ministers, it normally comes with a negative connotation, right? And so there's a strained relationship between minister, member, pastor, and people, but also, I mean, even the community at large. When you just talk about the humanity, there's always there's infidelity, there's embezzlement. I mean, there's so many assumptions and things like that go on. And so, man, this medium, I wanted it to be something that gives more of a positive spin on us, like letting people know, hey, I got hobbies. I have interesting things that I love to do. And you'd be surprised at how similar pastors are to regular people, And so there may be fellow ministers in the fraternity on watching. There may be some members of the congregation, members, around our brotherhood watching. There may be somebody unchurched, somebody who's like, I'm not really into the church scene, but, I'm more spiritual. We know we know the jargon that we have, right? And so regardless of the person, like, what advice, what insight would you give to kind of encourage and just strengthen that relationship between pastor and people, minister and member?
Pastors are people who make mistakes, who have moments where they fall in grace.
Yeah.
Catch what I just said, that they fall in grace. Mm-hmm. We use a term or a phrase that say fall from grace. But you can never fall from grace, because grace was given to you when you decided to give your life over to Christ.
I like that.
So you're wrapped in grace, but sometimes you fall in grace. Pastors fall in grace, right? And so what we have to understand is that pastors will do some things that the people will often frown upon. But we have to learn how to restore people the same way Christ restored us.
Yeah.
We got to learn how to restore the pulpit, because every Sunday the pulpit restores the people.
Yeah.
And I find it interesting that oftentimes the people, they want grace and they want mercy and they want forgiveness and they want us to overlook their discrepancies and their moments where they slip up. Mm-hmm. But when the pastor slips up, they want to fire the pastor. Yep. They want to hold a meeting and they don't want to forgive the pastor, the preacher. And that can be problematic, because what would happen if God didn't forgive you for your sins? Yep. Where would you be? Right. And so I think that we need to be more hesitant. Now, let me not say that the pastor should not be held to a higher regard. The pastor is still the shepherd, and the shepherd does have to conduct him or herself in a way where the sheep can follow your voice without worrying that you are, as we phrase it, the biblical terminology, that you are a wolf. Mm-hmm. And so I understand that. We understand that. But we do have to understand that pastors are people who need really a lot more grace. Because when you're anointed, especially anointed in the office of a minister or an evangelist, right? Attacks will come to you more often, and temptations will come to you more often than they hit the pews, which is why you have to guard yourself and protect yourself so that you don't fall to those temptations. Right. But the people need to understand that when preachers do fall, learn how to be loving enough to say, you know what, that's my pastor, that's my preacher. He's poured into me. He's done A, B, and C. Let me, even though I don't like what he did, let me be mature, spiritually mature enough to restore him and not talk about him behind his back. Also, we got to understand that the man of God, preacher, the pastor, is the mouthpiece. He is the prophetic voice for the church. And one thing biblically you can find everywhere where a lot of the people that God decided to use, they had a lot of issues.
Indeed.
A lot of problems. Moses, I mean, Abraham.
You can go down the road.
I mean, David. Come on now.
I mean, stuff that none of us have done.
Stuff. So I think we need to be cognizant of that, is that I think God forgives more than we do. And I think that can be very problematic. So I'd say, hey, people of God, understand that your man of God is often under a lot of pressure, under a lot of temptation. And so instead of talking about your preacher when he slips up, or if you think he slips up, or, if you don't think he's doing what he needs to be doing, and instead of you talking about him, take a moment to pray for him. Take a moment to say, Lord, cover my pastor, cover my man of God.
Yeah.
Give him what he stands in need of to move forward, because you never know. The pulpit deals with so many different issues and problems, and we preach through it, right? Yep. Right. We preach through it because we want to see our people encouraged. We want to see our people built up and edified. Right. But oftentimes we empty ourselves out in the pulpit to fill the people up, and then we leave the pulpit empty without anybody to fill us up. Right. And that's problematic. So my advice would be, in a realm of scandals and issues and things that are happening in the pulpit, pray for your pastor, pray for your preacher, because you never know what storms they're really dealing with. And you never know, after they leave the pulpit, what their frame of mind may be. I saw an article from Pew Group as well as Barna Group, as well as the Christian Chronicle, where thousands of pastors within these last 2 years have left ministry.
Quit, yeah.
I mean, if you look at the Church of Christ right now, we got more open pulpits and not enough preachers to take their spots, to fill them up.
Yeah.
And that's for a variety of reasons, but I think one of the main reasons is because of the pews not praying for their preacher.
Yeah.
Pews are praying, P-R-E-Y, and not praying, P-R-A-Y. And I think when we get back to prayer, we'll be in a better place. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was Paul as he was on his missionary journey, and they stoned Paul, and they stoned him. They wanted. I know it was in the Book of Acts. I can't think of the scripture right now. It slipped my head, but they stoned Paul. They stoned him and they left him and thought he was dead. But then when his disciples surrounded him, he got up as if nothing happened. And I think when we start praying for our preachers and members start praying for their pastors, when stones are being thrown from different directions, from different places, and people are trying to really demonically tear up churches and tear up leaders, I think when we rally around our pastors and pray for them and cover them, they'll get up as if nothing ever happened.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Definitely means a lot. Minister Pastor Givens, you blessed us, man. We appreciate you taking the time away. Like I said, we know you got wedding plans. We know vision meetings to do all that kind of stuff, man, regarding to ministry and just your personal life. And so, again, on behalf of everybody tuning in, live or on the replay, we appreciate you coming and blessing us, bro.
Pastor Smith, I appreciate you for allowing me this avenue and opportunity. Man, I love you. I'm praying for your ministry. You're doing some amazing things in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I pray God's favor on you and your family.
Appreciate that, bro. Appreciate that, man. Well, that concludes this particular episode. Again, we appreciate you, Pastor, for blessing us. Before we go, as we know in this era and time with COVID, this is a social media world. This is filled with virtual, cyber tech, cyber sanctuary, man. Yo, before we go, let the people know, how can we find you in the church on social media?
All right, listen. So you can follow me on Facebook, Jonathan Givens. You can follow me on Instagram. I believe it's Jonathan Givens. I say I believe it because I didn't memorize my name. Yeah, it's Jonathan. It's Jonathan __ Givens. And you can follow me on Twitter at Givens ASU. Givens ASU on all my social media platforms.
Nice. Appreciate you again, Doc. Remember, we do this every Thursday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. If this has blessed you in any way, as I always say, bars, don't be afraid to like it. Don't be afraid to subscribe to it. Don't be afraid to share it. Let somebody else be blessed by the time that we spent tonight. Until next week, we'll see you. God bless you. God keep you. Peace. Appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate you, bro.
Yes, sir.
That was good.